Mike Fisher reporting from Oxnard, California, camping with the Cowboys. There's practice right there. No, we're not going to show you any secret double reverse, halfback pass, triple reverse plays. I'm going to show you anything like that. But we will be able to set the scene for you on a couple of stories of the day. One of them is an important story and a big one, and it's about a coming. And the other one is kind of fraudulent. And I like to address fraud, as you know, and it's about somebody going. Let's get to the coming part first. We broke the story, of course, yesterday that Malik Hooker is basically in line to sign with the Dallas Cowboys, a source telling us. And then adding later in the evening that, and the first headline I wrote on CowboysSI.com was that he's arrived in Oxnard. We changed that to arriving because I don't want to get my clock not exactly right. But the plan is for Malik Hooker to be in Oxnard with the Cowboys this weekend, and to then start the clock on his protocol. And of course, that's COVID related. One wrinkle here is he vaccinated? And how does that factor in? But if you add up the 5 days of testing, and then you go Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or maybe you go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Malik Hooker, maybe, is a Cowboy on Wednesday. That sort of thing is the plan. I also think there's a great debate to be had, and we'll work on this today, because Demonte Casey is a free safety. He could not play the other one. Malik Hooker, over the course of his career, has been that kind of guy too, but I think Malik Hooker can do much, much more than that. So can the two of those guys start together? What does this do to Donovan Wilson's status? And then a little down the line, Thompson, for instance, Kears, other guys that are not necessarily locked into jobs here. You're only going to keep so many guys. If Malik Hooker is indeed healthy and then goes through the protocol, another level of healthy, then there will be a shuffling of bodies, you would think, roster-wise, sometime soon for the Cowboys, sometime this summer. Certainly that is. Then there's the going story. That's the coming story. Here's the going. And Ryan Clark, who played in the NFL, and I always have respect for that. If you've lived it, I respect it. Does a thing on ESPN's Get Up in which he all but predicts that Mike McCarthy's going to get fired. And what Ryan said was, he said he's got to win the NFC East. Okay. And then he said he's got to win a playoff game to avoid being fired. And there's so many problems with reporting like this when you frame it as something that's factual. And again, maybe the people that do this aren't skilled enough, to have, I got a twinkle in my eye when I say that. Maybe you got to put a twinkle in your eye somehow to let the audience know, hey, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying if. Because Ryan Clark doesn't really know what he's talking about on a couple of different levels. One, Jerry Jones' loyalty to his head coach. Maybe you have to be in the building to recognize this. It doesn't seem like it. Firing coaches in the short go is simply not what they do here. 32 years running, it's simply not what he does. He doesn't believe in it. He believes in making a commitment to his employees and then sticking with it when at all possible. Jason Garrett being the most high-profile example, but what again the Ryan Clarks can't know, and want to help you know. I said this to Broadus the other day on the air about the concept of the yes man. There's people, and they're my friends, who've worked here for 30 years. And I mean in scouting, in marketing, in sales, in season tickets, in whatever capacity. Jerry Jones is a loyalty guy. Now, when he first came in, of course, he blew people out. Of course, that organization, when we first came in, was, what was the number? Were they losing $1 million a month? Is that what the bleeding number was? They went in the books and saw that people's former employees' ex-wives were still driving company cars. in 1988, 1989. So the Joneses did come in. Jerry did come in and blow out a lot of that, and obviously part of the blowout included, most famously, Tom Landry. But as he's assembled his people over the course of decades, his people stay. And if he can help it, that includes his head coach. So that's problem number one with the idea that there's this immediate hot seat as it relates to Mike McCarthy. Problem number two with it is the wobbly bar that Ryan Clark has said here. What do you mean they have to win the NFC East or a playoff game? You mean if they don't win the NFC East but make the playoffs as a wild card and then win a playoff game, that he'll still be fired because they didn't win the NFC East? Because that's what you said. And then, do you really mean, and I say this every year to you guys when people talk about what's it going to take for this guy to keep his job, what's it going to take for this guy to get fired? Only a completely moronic organization would really put that as a firm bar. What if this team wins 11 games this year and they're just fantastic in the regular season, and Dak Prescott and the rest of this locker room fall in love with Mike McCarthy, right? And they kick all kinds of ass over the course of the regular season. They win the division. They get to the playoffs and they play this incredibly epic game, inspired, fantastic, wonderful game. One of the crispest games the Cowboys have ever played. And then on the last play of the game, the ball bounces sideways and they lose. You think they're firing Mike McCarthy? Because they won't. Not under those circumstances. And those circumstances obviously are real. Then there's the third leg to what Ryan Clark reported, which is that when McCarthy gets fired, Dan Quinn will replace him. Now, I've reported that the Jones family has immediately fallen in love with Dan Quinn, and privately at least, one of the reasons that they like him, in addition to what he's doing out here, they think he's a recruiting tool. They think players will want to come here over and maybe that's already being proven true with KZ and Hooker and others. Neal, the changes in the defensive line, etc. So they value Dan Quinn, and NFL players, this generation of players, values him too. But Ryan Clark's saying he'll be the next head coach of the Cowboys, which leaves out this gigantic list of names, some of whom we can't even name yet because they haven't even come onto the scene. Dan Quinn would be a candidate for that job in theory, although I do caution you, once upon a time, Chris Richard was going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. Then the next thing you know, he didn't work here anymore. Remember? Things move fast in this league. You better put Kellen Moore's name on the list of some days. Remember that this Jones family told Kellen Moore, don't go to Boise, we'll take care of you here. We'll take care of you doesn't mean we promise you're going to be the next NFL head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, but it means we'll take care of you. And so he'd be on that list. You better put Sean Payton, anytime there's a Cowboy opening, you better put Sean Payton of the Saints on the list, period. You better keep an eye on the OU coach, just in case. Although OU, along with Texas, has its hands full, as it is, with its Big 12 SEC transference issue. Then there's this list of retreads that you better pay attention to, and it's a long list, and you can't say, oh, it's going to be this guy or this guy or this. We're talking about a year from now. And then there's a list of guys you and I haven't even heard of yet. Matt Rule got hired not just to coach Carolina. He kind of runs the Carolina Panthers. And a year before he got hired, the casual football fan had never heard of Matt Rule. He was still laboring in relative obscurity at Baylor. When Ron Rivera got hired in Washington, some people thought that was a retread. He's now taken over that organization and turned the whole thing around. So the retreads, the guys you never heard of, the level of Sean Payton kind of guy, the level of the Sooners head coach kind of guy, people are already on this staff, all those would be candidates if. But the ifs are gigantic, presumptuous, some of them wrong, and I also think it's insulting. I think it's not fair. I don't think it's fair to do a Mike McCarthy hot seat on the second day of practice at training camp. So I know I know that you can't do a segment like this. Well, you could. This only takes 10 minutes. I guess you could have gone this segment on Get Up. Maybe they should call me. If you got 10 minutes of room, ESPN's Get Up, I'd be happy to come on and do what I just did here and explain how this really works when you're really inside the building and you really have access to the thinking of the Jones family over the course of 30 years. But I also recognize this is part of what we do. Mike McCarthy on the hot seat is not really a story, except there are segments to be filled. So as of right now, Mike McCarthy is not going anywhere, and Malik Hooker does seem to be coming here. Thank you for subscribing to what we do. Hit that like button. That seems to impact greatly our success here, and of course your subscriptions are free. And if you're a member of Cowboy Nation and you want the straight dope, you now know where to get it. In Oxnard with the Cowboys Fish. Out.